This is the video with instructions on how to do a basic business letter using Microsoft Word. So if you look at the screen, you see right now I have the file up called Instructions for Microsoft Word, Creating and Formatting a Business Letter. These are the instructions on how to use Microsoft Word to create our class business letter. The actual information that I want you to use, like the recipient's name, company, address, things like that, are in the original homework assignment. So you will need to use both of these documents in order to be able to do this assignment. This is just how to use Word to create your business letter. The instructions on what I want you to do and what I want you to include in the business letter, that's in the homework file. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. As you can see, the very first instruction is open Microsoft Word. So if you happen to know where it's already loaded on your computer, then you can go there. If you don't know, I'm going to show you a couple of places where you can find it. First place you're going to go is down here. This is called the Start button on your Windows screen. So I'll go ahead and click that. Now I happen to have put it in my Start menu. I could click right here on Microsoft Word. This is the icon for Microsoft Word. And you can see over here in the homework assignment I gave you what the icon looks like. So I could click on this. If you don't already have it in your Start menu, this is what happens when you add it to your Start menu, then you'll need to come over here and look for it. It's alphabetized under Word. Some people might not know if it's under Microsoft or if it's under Word. It's under Word. So you just scroll all the way down to the W's and you'll see it right there. And you can just click on that. Another thing that I do is I put it down here in my taskbar, so I could also click here. Now if you want to put it in either your Start menu or in your taskbar, you just come over here and you right click. And what you'll see here is, now if I didn't already have it in my Start menu, it would say Pin to Start menu. I already have it there, so it's giving me the option to unpin. I'm not going to do that. The other thing you can do is you can pin it to the taskbar. So if you click that, this will always show up down here now, whether you have it open or not. Now the way to tell if you have something open in your taskbar is this line underneath. If you have the line, you have something open. And if you just hover your mouse over these icons, then you will see exactly what you have open. So I have a calculator open, I have a program called Camtasia, I do have this Word document open. I do not have Microsoft Outlook open, so you see that I don't have a line under it. That means I don't have anything open. Same thing with Chrome, and you can see I have 3 completely different sets of windows open, and each of these can have multiple tabs. So if you're ever looking for what has happened to a program, look down here and just hover your mouse over that icon. Alright, but anyway, let's get back to our assignment. So you go ahead and just click on Word, and it comes up with this blank document. We are going to create a blank document. I do not want you looking for business letter templates. The reason for that is because a lot of times the business letter templates are distracting, they're not very good. What I want you to do for this assignment is just create a very basic business letter that you can use for anything. It doesn't have a bunch of fancy formatting. A lot of times with business letters, fancy formatting is distracting and it's not good for what you need it to do anyway. The other thing is that this assignment is designed to get you comfortable with using Word, and I want you to learn how to use some of the features. And a template doesn't teach you how to do that. Alright, so you just go ahead and click on Blank Document. And now you've got your blank document. But there are some things that we need to do first before we start typing. Microsoft Word is a little different than just a plain old text file. So let's go ahead back to the instructions and see what they say. Alright, so we've already done this second step, which was to click on that blank document and get the blank document up. First thing that I want you to do is give your document a name. Now there are 3 different ways, and I'll show you each of them. The first option is to click on the Save button. The second option is to use the Control keys on your keyboard. And the third is to go to File. And I'll just quickly show you each one of those methods. So back to our Word document. Now right now I'm just hovering over this Save icon. If I clicked it, it would pull up a window that asks me what I want to name the document and where I want to save it. Since I'm hovering, you can also see that it says Save and then Control plus S. The Control plus S is a keyboard stroke, and what you do with that is you press and hold down the Control key on your keyboard and then just click the button S, and then you let go of both and it will pull up that same window. So clicking on this button or clicking Control S on your keyboard do the exact same thing. I'll click this button now just to show you what window pops up. And this is where it says save this file. Right now it has a default name of doc, and I want you to give it a new name. And for the purposes of our assignment, I want you to put your last name. So I'll put Abrams, and then you type business letter. Now choose a location. If you take a look down here, this is where it's telling you it's going to save it if you don't change anything. I happen to use OneDrive, which saves it to the cloud, but you can click on this arrow here or anywhere on this button, and you can decide somewhere else that you want to save it to. So if you've been saving it to a particular folder, your computer knows some of your most recent folders and it gives you those options. But if none of these are where you want to save it, then you click on More Locations, and this window pops up. Over here it's showing you those same folders it showed you before. These are the ones that the computer knows you use on a regular basis. This is that OneDrive that I use, but if you use My Documents on your computer, you can just click this PC, then More Options for Locations. That pops up what's known as your File Explorer in Windows. Now I can expand this PC, and the way I expanded that is I just clicked this little arrow next to this PC. When it's pointing downwards, that means it's expanded. If I click it again, when it's pointing to the right, that means it is collapsed. You can't see what's under it. But we want to go ahead and expand that, and we want to go to Documents. And then you just go to the folders that you want. Let's say I'm going to put it in MSJC. I just double click on MSJC, and I'm going to leave it here. I've already given it the name, and I'm going to click Save. So instead of saying Document at the top, now it has the name that I gave it. Alright, the third place to save a document is you come to File. Now normally if I had not already saved it, you would see Save above Save a Copy. So you would just click Save and it would take you to that same window that we've already seen. So there are just 3 different ways to get to the same place to save your document. Alright, so now that we've saved the document, let's go ahead and take a look at the homework assignment. Alright, so I already showed you all 3 of these. Now we're going to go ahead and set your margins. So it says click on Layout, Margins, and we're going to go Normal. So Layout, Margins, Normal. Let's take a look at what that looks like. Alright, up here you see the word Layout. This is a toolbar. So all these words are toolbars. We're going to click on Layout. And did you see that the buttons down here changed? So when we were on Home, these are the options it gave you. When we clicked on Layout, those options changed. In Microsoft language, this is called a ribbon. So this is the toolbar, this is the ribbon. These are the buttons that are on the ribbon. And it said Layout, Margins, and then it said Normal. It's already on Normal. Normal just means 1-inch margins all the way around. So there's a 1-inch margin at the top, there's a 1-inch margin on the left, same with the bottom and the right. So we're going to stick with Normal. Let's take a look at the next step. Now it's talking about paragraph line spacing. This is really important because with Microsoft Word, unlike with Google Docs, there is an automatic space that is entered after you hit enter for a new paragraph. So within your paragraph you can have single line spacing and all of your lines are single spaced. But as soon as you hit enter to create a new paragraph, it adds extra space to give you that extra space between those paragraphs. We don't want that for the business letter because every time you hit enter when you're entering the recipient's name, company, and address and your own, you don't want extra spaces in between those lines. You want them to all be single spaced even though you're hitting enter. So let's go ahead and take a look at how to do that because that's important to do before we start. So where you go here is still on the layout tab. So in your toolbar you're still going to be on layout. And you can see over here it says after 8 points. What this is talking about, that spacing, that after, means after you hit enter, after the paragraph. And Microsoft defaults to 8 point. We're just going to take that down to 0. You can either just hit these buttons and knock it down until you see 0, or you can just type 0 when you highlight it. Alright, so this was the quick and easy way to do it, but I want to show you some more powerful tools that will also allow you to make some additional changes and see what the different settings do. So if you click on this little arrow right here, Paragraph Settings, you'll see that this is once again the before and after that we just saw. Your left and right indent right here. But it gives you some more tools. One of the things I want you to notice is that line spacing is right here. And this says multiple, and multiple just means that it's not 1, 1.5, 2, or any of these. Now 1.08 is just slightly more than single. If I click on single, and it's actually a little bit cramped. You can see an example down here of the paragraph it's single. I do like the 1.08, which is that default, and it's just slightly more spread out, but it still looks like single spacing. The reason I'm showing you all of this right now is because you can really use some of these settings, like if you're doing a resume and you have just gone over onto a second page and you don't want to be on the second page. You can play with things like your margins and also your line spacing to control it so that you can bring that line back onto your page without having to remove anything from your resume. So Microsoft Word gives you a lot of powerful tools that you can play with on your own to make things fit the way you want them to. But we're going to keep this default right now, and we're going to keep that 0 after. And you just say either OK or cancel because we didn't change anything. I'll just go ahead and cancel. Alright, now we're ready to go on to the next step. We're ready to actually start typing. Alright, so we've done all of that. Now it's time to actually start with the information. So we're already left justified. Let me show you where that is. We're going to go back home. So back on the home tool. This is where you're going to justify your document. This means that everything starts from the left side of your paper. This would center our cursor. You'll use that for things like the resume. We're not doing that in this lesson. Right justify means that we start writing here and our sentences start to pull out this direction. And fully justified means that it spreads out the letters enough so that your sentences always match up on the left and match up on the right. If you open a book, you'll see that those are fully justified, where you have a full line on both sides. That's really the only time you would use this full justify. Most of the time you'll just use this align left. And that's what we're going to do here. Alright, so we've already justified. Now we're just going to start with the information. This is the assignment paper that I want you to use to get the information for putting in your business letter. So this gives you all the information about what it is that you're doing, the name and address and company of the person that you're writing to, your own company, and then instructions on what I want you to do. So this is where we'll get that information. The assignment says type your name, then press enter. Then type in the company name I gave you on the assignment page. The assignment page is this. Alright, so I said type your name, so let's go ahead and do that. And then the instructions said hit enter. And I did. And now it says use the company I gave you. So let's go look at that assignment page, and we're going to look at this. The person I'm writing to, okay, so that's not me. This, you work for PDQ Manufacturing. So we're going to go ahead and type PDQ Manufacturing. Alright, let's take a look at the next instruction. Alright, so that's the name and company. Now type in the street information for the company that I gave you. So the reason I have you doing this is because I don't want you to write your actual address in your assignment, so I gave you a fake one. Alright, so it's 1235 Main Street in Temecula. Okay, hit enter. Now it's important here that you either do use a period or don't. It doesn't matter which one you choose, but whichever one you choose, you need to do for your recipient as well. Once you make a decision as to whether you're going to use the period or not use the period, you need to do the same thing every time. So I'm not going to do the period, but I could, but I'm not going to. Alright, so 1235 Main Street. And then the instructions say to hit enter. And then the city and state and zip code all go on the next line. So I chose Temecula, California, and for the state you want to do the 2-letter code, all capital letters. And then 92592 was the zip code. You will have a comma after the city. You will not have a comma after the state. And now we're done with that particular address block. So let's go back to the instructions. Alright, so the instructions talk about all of our information. Now we're going to do the date. But what's important here is that after you type the city, state, and zip code, I want you to hit enter on your keyboard twice. And that adds a double space. So let's go ahead and do that. Enter, enter. Okay, so now we've got that blank line in between our information and the date. And it has me writing the date, and so today is February 25th. Alright, so when writing the date in a business letter, you do want to fully write out the month, and then the day number, and then a comma after that, and then the full written out year. And the instructions say, once again, to hit enter twice, because we want to have an extra line in between the date and the recipient. Okay, we find the information for the recipient, the person who's getting our letter, right here. So again, this is the information we're using for the letter. We're writing to Malia Gilles. And you want to pay close attention to how that is spelled, because you never on a letter want to accidentally spell someone's name wrong. Okay, I'm going to go back and double check the spelling. I spelled it M-A-L-I-A Gilles. Let's go ahead and look at that. M-I-L-I-A. Yep, that's good. Gilles. Yes, I got it. Okay. Always pay very close attention to the name. Now the next is Jones Home Goods. So we'll come back here. Her company goes on the next line, and that was Jones Home Goods. Alright, the instructions say enter one more. And now we're getting into her address. Alright, I'm going to teach you a very important Microsoft feature called the Paint tool, and also copy paste. We're going to take this information, and you could type it out just the way I say in the instructions, but I'm going to show you how to copy and paste and how to use that paintbrush button, which is really great. Alright, so with my cursor, I'm going to place the cursor right in front of what I want to copy. I'm going to press down and hold on the left mouse button, then move my mouse down while still holding that button down, and bring it over right to the end of what I want to copy, and now I'm letting go of the left mouse button. So that's been highlighted. I'm going to, on my keyboard, press and hold Control and click the C button, and that copies that. The other thing you can do is you can right-click inside the highlighting, and that brings up a menu and allows you to copy. So you can use either method to copy. I tend to like using the keyboard because it's a little bit faster, since you can do one part of it with your mouse and then really quickly hit Control C. And again, with Control, you press and hold the Control key down, then you just click on the C. Either way, I have now double copied this line, so it's definitely in my clipboard. And so that's been copied. But you'll notice that this is in bold. We're not doing anything in bold in the business letter, so that's what I'm going to show you next. Let's go ahead and paste this in. So we're already on the line that we want it on. Now I'm going to press and hold the Control key and click the button V. Now that would paste it in. I can also right-click and paste. Now these are different paste options, and you can hover over these without actually clicking on them just to see how it would come in. This comes in as the source formatting, so the original letter that I wrote this on, so it keeps the bold. We don't want that. Merge formatting kind of brings both together. Not really any change for this letter, so we're not going to use it. Bringing it in as a picture, this you don't want to do because this would mean that it's now an image and you can't edit it. So we definitely don't want to do that here. Now bringing it in as text only, that's great. But because I want to show you the paintbrush tool, I'm not going to do that. But this would be a great way of bringing in information from another source that was formatted differently and bringing it into your letter and using your letter's formatting, which is exactly what we want. You'll see that right here it's not bold. It's the same font, same size as our letter. So this is how I would have you normally paste it in, but because I'm going to show you the paintbrush tool, I'm going to keep the source formatting so that it's bold. Alright, now I do see that there's a little extra space in here, so I'm going to left click right in front of that 3 and then hit the backspace just so that I get rid of that space. Now this is how you use the paintbrush tool. You click inside something that is formatted the way you want it. You say, yep, I like this. And it's sort of like painting. You know, this is the paint that we're going to use. You come up here and click on the paintbrush. So we've now clicked on the paintbrush, so it's like we've picked up that paint we like, the formatting we like. Now I'm just going to come over here and highlight this line. Left click and hold in front of the 3. Move the cursor all the way to the end. Now let go of that left mouse button. And I have now painted this line with the formatting of this line because I liked it. So those are two different ways you can paste it in and get the right formatting. You can either just paste text without formatting, the way I showed you with those buttons just a few minutes ago, or you can paste it in and then do Format Painter to get the formatting that you want from your letter. Alright, now you're going to see though that I want the street on one line and the city, state, and zip on the next line. And right now we have all of it together. So I'm going to just put my cursor right here at the end of street. I'm going to hit enter, which is great, it gets them on another line, but I have a comma here and a space. All I'm going to do is hit delete on my keyboard twice. First one gets rid of the comma, second one gets rid of the space in front of Wichita. Now the rest of that formatting's okay with one exception. As I said earlier, with whether or not you use a period after street, you have to do the same thing every time. Same thing with the state. We could either type out California completely, or we can have this 2-letter abbreviation. I chose the 2-letter abbreviation, which means down here I need to use the 2-letter abbreviation. The 2-letter abbreviation for Kansas is KS. And that's something you can actually just look up online. You can go to Google and you can type in state abbreviations, and you'll find a website very quickly that will give you all of the abbreviations for all of the states, and you'll see that Kansas is KS. So that's how you can get those abbreviations. If you don't feel like looking up Kansas, then you can just change California to fully typed out. The only thing is that whatever you do in one place is the same thing you have to do in another place. Alright, so now the instructions say enter twice again. So enter, enter on my keyboard. And now what are we going to do next? So we've done the date, we've done the recipient's information, we've already done the double space, and I don't have specific instructions here on how to do it, simply because I already gave it to you up here. But since you're watching the video, you saw that all you're doing is entering twice. Alright, so now the greeting. It's reminding you that you needed to do that double space up here, which we did. And now we're going to type our greeting. So let's go ahead and do that. We know her name is Malia Gilles, so we're going to write Dear. Now we don't know necessarily if she is Mrs. or Ms., so it's safest just to go Ms, M-S. You do want to use periods after the Mr., Ms., or Mrs. Alright, we are not going to repeat her first name here. So you do have her first name here, but you don't have it down here. So we're just going to go straight to the last name. Because in business, you don't usually say Ms. Debbie or Ms. Malia. You go for Ms. and then their last name. Dear Ms. Gilles. And you do want to have a comma after that. Alright, the instructions will say enter again twice, because you want to have that extra line. Alright, so your content, and these are the instructions for what you're going to say. Alright, this is where you're going to start your paragraph. Now there are a couple of ways that you can get that extra line in between your paragraphs. You know, right now, let's go back to the layout tab. Right now we're in that 0 point between paragraphs. Alright, because we have 0 point after the paragraph, you'll see that as soon as it hits the end of that paragraph, it's on that very next line, so it's a little cramped looking. Now, the way around that, if you're still at 0 point, is you can just put your cursor at the end and hit enter. So every time you get to the end of a paragraph, if you just hit enter 2 times, it will show up on the next line. The other thing that we could do is here, once we're done with the Dear Ms. Gilles, and we're on that second line down there, if we now change this to 8 point, and now I do the random text, you'll see that it automatically created that extra space in between the paragraphs, which is what we do want in this section for the paragraphs. We didn't want extra spaces after hitting enter up here, but we do want it down here. So you have a choice. You can either leave this at 0, and then every time you get to the end of a paragraph, you just hit enter twice. You know, enter once brings you to this line, enter twice brings you to this second line. Or, when you get to this section, just change it back to 8 point. Changes you make up here will only apply to everything you do after that point. Now, if we want to, and of course we don't, so I'm going to have you not do this, I'm just demonstrating. If we wanted that extra space, you could just highlight, once again by doing the left click and hold, drag to the end of what you want to affect. So I've now highlighted all of this. This is what would happen if this were at 8 point. And then I hit enter. And this is what I was trying to help you avoid, because we don't want that much space. This doesn't look good, and it wastes a lot of space on your document. Now, if at the beginning of writing your letter you had forgotten to change this to 0 point and you'd started typing everything out, and you're looking at your assignment right now and this is what it looks like, you can just highlight this and now change it to 0. You don't have to undo your typing. You can change the formatting of what you have done at any point. You can either do it up front, which is what we did, or you can do it afterwards, which is just fine. It's just that the main goal is to have your business letter looking like this by the end when you turn it in. This section needs to be single-spaced. This one, I do want to have those extra lines in between your paragraphs. It just looks better and it's easier for everyone to read. So those are the ways to do it. Alright, so you've done your content, and we're going to do the goodwill closing. So I do want you to write something like thank you for your time, or I look forward to hearing from you, or even both. And then you double space after that closing, and we'll get to this in a second. So let's go ahead and do that goodwill closing. Alright, so we're down here after our last paragraph. Do pay attention to the fact that we're in 8-point right now. Alright, so see how it did that automatic second space. That's good. So we're going to write, alright, thank you for your time. I look forward to answering any questions you have. Now we're going to hit the sincerely part. Let's take a look at what your instructions are for that. Alright, so we're going to do sincerely all by itself. We do want to have double space here. Alright, so because we're still in 8-point, it automatically did the double spacing. If we were at 0-point, I would have had to hit enter twice to get to the same place. Both are perfectly okay. It's just whatever you have set up here determines what you have to do down here. So we're going to write sincerely with a comma, and now let's take a look at what it says. Alright, so it says hit the enter key 4 times, and then we're going to write our name. Now what's important about this is that these instructions are assuming that you are only in 0-point for that after the paragraph. So that means that with 0-point up here, yes, we would hit enter 4 times. I have 8-point right now, so I only have to do it twice, because every time I hit enter, it's actually double spacing. So this, hitting enter twice with 8-point, is going to be the same thing, let me show you up here, let's go back to 0, as hitting 1, 2, 3, 4. You end up in the exact same place hitting enter 4 times with 0-point as you do when you hit enter 2 times at 8-point. Okay, so now we're just going to write our name. If you use a middle initial, make sure there's a period. And so you just write your name. And if you want to here, you can put a title. So you just hit enter 1 time. And this is important that you're in 0-point, because if you were still in 8-point, and you hit enter, you wind up 2 lines down. Now I'm going to show you a way to just get a single line if you're in 8-point. Now if you just regularly hit enter, as you saw, it goes down 2 lines. But if you hit shift and hold it and hit enter, it only goes down 1 line. So that's a way around this automatic extra space in between these lines if you're in 8-point. So once again, if you want to go down a single line when you are in 8-point, press and hold shift on your keyboard, tap enter, now let go of shift. But you are just 1 line down, even though we're at 8-point, because you pressed and held the shift key. And I'm just going to give myself a title. Alright, Sales Manager, so you can put a title there. Alright, let's go back to the instructions. Name, got that? And that's it. That's all you had to do. Now I do want to show you once again on the homework though, is that this does talk about the instructions, your paragraph. You're going to be creating something called a widget. I already explained in class how the widget is anything at all that you want it to be. You're going to come up with 3 characteristics, 3 things that your widget does that will make the customer want to buy it, and you'll describe those things in the letter. I'm not giving you a specific product to sell. I'm not telling you what your product does. That's up to you to decide, and that's up to you to decide how to write your letter. If you are an advanced student, I want you to really think about whether you should be using direct or indirect formatting. For everyone but the advanced students, you don't need to worry as much about whether or not it's direct or indirect. What I really want you to focus on is the formatting of the letter, making sure that you get the things in the right places, that you're using the right information for the recipient, Malia Gilles, that you are making sure that street either does or does not have a period, and every time you use street, you do the same thing. Same with the state. Did you write both states in the same type of format? That's what I want you focusing on. All right, good luck, and if anyone has any questions, go ahead and email me.